It is Friday, July 24, 2026, at 6:42 in the evening. You are sitting at your mother's kitchen table with a paper plate, a folded hardware store receipt, and a red cookie tin that has followed your family through 3 apartments and 1 small house. Your phone shows a number you have never seen beside your own name before. $1,016,718. Not income. Net worth. Investments, cash and home equity, minus what you still owe. Across the table, your mother is cutting cornbread. Nobody in the room knows you have just become the first millionaire in the family. Then the family group chat lights up. Your brother needs $26,000 by Monday to keep his repair shop current. You can help. That is the problem. 15 years earlier, you are 24 and earning $56,000 a year in desktop support for a regional logistics company outside Cleveland. Your financial life fits inside 4 numbers. $24,700 in student loans. $3,800 on a credit card. $612 in checking. And $200 sent to your mother every month, whether the month can afford it or not. Your family is not reckless. Your mother works the breakfast shift in a public school cafeteria and takes extra hours during summer programs. Your father spent most of his career maintaining apartment buildings. Bills are paid, usually. Food appears. Birthdays happen. What the family does not have is margin. Your mother manages money with a red metal cookie tin. 1 envelope holds rent. Another holds utilities. A third is labeled later, although later frequently arrives before the envelope is full. You learn 2 lessons from that tin. Money is temporary. And the person who has some is responsible for the person who does not. At work, a benefits coordinator explains the company retirement plan. If you contribute 6% of your pay, the fictional employer's formula contributes another 4%. You almost decline. 6% feels like money being removed from a life that already needs all of it. Instead, you make one quiet decision. You enroll at 6% and activate an automatic annual increase of 1 percentage point until your contribution reaches 15%. You also schedule $75 every Friday toward the credit card, then the student loan. The plan is not elegant. It is barely visible. Your first contribution is smaller than the television your coworker buys that month. There is no reason to believe it will become a family fortune. It is simply the first dollar in your life that receives instructions before anyone can ask for it. That instruction creates guilt before it creates wealth. At the next family cookout, your aunt mentions an overdue utility bill. You know the retirement contribution has already left your paycheck. For several minutes, you imagine reversing it. The money feels unavailable for a future version of you while someone you love has a problem tonight. Your mother notices your face and reaches into the red cookie tin. She covers the bill herself using money from the later envelope. Nothing dramatic happens. The lights stay on. Dinner continues. But you understand why building wealth in a family without wealth feels different. Saving is not merely delayed consumption. It can feel like withholding rescue. You keep the contribution anyway. Then you create a separate $50 weekly transfer into a small family reserve. The amount is not large enough to solve every problem. Its real purpose is to keep compassion from renegotiating the retirement account every Friday. Jordan, whom you are dating then, watches you build a spreadsheet with 3 columns: bills, future, family. Where are you? Jordan asks. You point to the future column. Jordan looks at the screen but says nothing. What Jordan sees is a spreadsheet that gives every dollar a home except the person operating it. You see something else, the first financial system in your family that does not rely on whoever remains calmest when the envelope is empty. That silence will return years later. For the first 7 months, the numbers appear to move backward. The retirement account rises, but the credit card balance still charges interest. Your car needs brakes. Your mother's refrigerator stops cooling. Victor, still an apprentice mechanic, offers to install the replacement part if you can buy it. You use $430 from a small cash reserve and do not touch the credit card. It is not wealth. It is the first emergency that does not become a second emergency. 28 months after starting, your personal balance sheet crosses zero. Everything you own is finally worth slightly more than everything you owe. The number is $184. You take a screenshot, then delete it because even you feel embarrassed by how proud it makes you. That evening, you stop at your mother's house. You nearly tell her. Instead, you help carry groceries inside and listen while she explains that the washing machine has started making a metallic sound. Your new positive net worth could not replace the machine. It could barely cover one service call. Still, the number changes your posture. The next setback will not be added to a pile that already exceeds everything you own. For the first time, progress has a side of zero it can return to. But zero changes the direction of your attention. Before zero, every payment repairs the past. After zero, part of each payment begins constructing a future. You start viewing raises differently. A raise is no longer permission to redesign your entire life. Half improves the present. Half strengthens the system. When your salary moves from $56,000 to $68,000, you replace the mattress you have complained about for 4 years. You also increase the weekly investment transfer. When it reaches $78,000, you move to an apartment with a second bedroom. The room becomes a weekend consulting office rather than storage for more things. Your first consulting client pays $600 to clean up a scheduling database. The project takes 3 Saturdays and far too many emails. You do not celebrate the $600. You notice that it came from a skill you own rather than a position another company controls. That money enters the future column. The process remains ordinary enough that nobody sees it as success. Your car is 9 years old. Your clothes come from the same stores. At family dinners, you still carry folding chairs up from the basement. Yet something has shifted. The family begins calling you before decisions, not after them. Can you look at this lease? Does this insurance bill seem right? Could you cover the furnace and let us pay you back? You like being useful. Usefulness feels like proof that the system is working. The first time your mother says, "Ask Adrian, he'll know," you feel 10 feet tall. Your role expands beyond money. You compare phone plans, explain payroll deductions and sit beside Victor while he reviews the first lease for a repair bay. Each task is small. Together they make you the family translator for systems nobody taught any of you to trust. That position brings dignity. Your parents spent years solving practical problems for you, now competence is moving in the other direction. You are not merely escaping the starting line. You are making the map easier for the people behind you. This is the beautiful side of becoming first. It is also why the cost remains difficult to name. You do not yet understand that admiration can become an assignment. By 30, your financial system runs on payday rather than willpower. Money moves automatically into 4 destinations: household bills, retirement accounts, a taxable investment account and a separate family help fund. The family fund begins at $150 a month. It is not a rule from a book. It is your attempt to make generosity predictable. Your investment contributions grow with income. In the fictional arithmetic behind this story, they total $8,000 in the first full year, $22,000 in year 5, $40,000 in year 9 and $65,000 in year 14. The later amounts combine workplace contributions, employer contributions, taxable investing and part of your consulting income. The path is not smooth. Markets fall. Clients leave. Some years the account finishes below where it began despite months of deposits. Diversification reduces dependence on a single investment, but it does not remove the possibility of loss. The purpose of the system is not to predict what markets will do next. It is to keep one frightened month from rewriting a 15-year plan. You create a similar rule for cash. The household reserve grows until it can cover several months of the expenses you and Jordan actually have. The target belongs to your circumstances, not to a universal formula. When the reserve is used, automatic transfers rebuild it before discretionary spending expands. Once a year, you review account ownership, beneficiaries, and the mix of investments. You do not chase whichever asset performed best that year. You check whether the portfolio still matches the time horizon and the amount of loss the household can tolerate without abandoning the plan. The review takes less than an hour. The hard part is closing the browser afterward. Wealth building contains long stretches in which the most productive action is refusing to create a new action. In 2017, you and Jordan buy a $275,000 house. The down payment and closing cash total $35,000. The house is smaller than several properties the lender says you could qualify for. You choose it because the payment leaves room for investing, family support, and an ordinary life when one income temporarily disappears. That choice is invisible from the street. So is the weekend consulting work. By 35, it adds roughly $32,000 a year before taxes and expenses. Your salary has climbed to $138,000 because you moved from technical support into systems analysis, then operations management. You do not become wealthy by discovering one extraordinary asset. You become wealthy by refusing to make every improvement visible. The red cookie tin remains at your mother's house, but the family's relationship with it changes. The utilities envelope stops running empty. You replace the furnace without financing. You cover a $4,600 car repair when your mother needs the vehicle for work. You pay for Victor's certification course and insist it is a gift. There are also requests you decline. You do not finance a cousin's destination wedding. You do not lend money for a luxury truck. Those decisions are easy because the difference between desire and emergency is visible. The difficult requests contain both. A car repair protects someone's job but also follows years without maintenance. A business investment may create income but may also delay a necessary change. Family money rarely arrives with a clean label. Every time, the family promises to repay you. Every time, you say not to worry about it. The words sound generous. They also prevent anyone, including you, from knowing where generosity ends. Jordan notices that the Family Help Fund now receives $750 a month, but requests often bypass it. When the account is empty, you pull from consulting income. When consulting income is spoken for, you reduce the taxable investment transfer. The system still grows. But one part of it is beginning to depend on your inability to disappoint anyone. The first real stress test arrives during a year when everyone seems to need help at once. In January, Jordan's work hours are reduced for 1 quarter. In March, your mother's car fails inspection. In May, one consulting client ends a contract with 14 days of notice. Each event is manageable alone. Together, they make every account balance feel smaller than it looked in December. You respond by returning to the architecture. Household spending pauses. The consulting income assumption falls to zero. The family help account remains available, but you stop pretending it can support several households indefinitely. For the first time, Jordan asks you to write down which financial goals are allowed to move when family needs appear. You cannot answer. Your consulting revenue drops for 5 months. The investment account falls with the market. A storm damages part of your mother's roof, and the insurance settlement leaves a gap of $18,600 under the fictional facts of this story. You pay the contractor. The payment comes from the household reserve and taxable account rather than retirement assets. It delays your own planned renovation and reduces the amount invested that month. None of those consequences is catastrophic. That is precisely why saying yes feels automatic. Affordability hides the decision. At dinner, your mother cries. Victor raises a glass and says, "First one in the family who made it." You have not yet crossed $1 million. But the identity reaches the table before the number does. From that night forward, relatives describe you as successful. They do not see the investment account decline. They do not see the quarterly tax payments for consulting work. They do not see Jordan postponing a kitchen renovation because the roof payment came from money the two of you had assigned elsewhere. They see the result. The roof no longer leaks. That is how invisible systems create visible expectations. Victor's repair shop is 4 years old by then. He is skilled, well-liked and exhausted. He leases 3 service bays and employs 2 technicians. The business is real. So are its weaknesses. One commercial customer pays late. A diagnostic machine fails. Payroll and rent arrive on schedule anyway. Victor asks for $8,000. You send it that afternoon. He repays $2,000 3 months later. You tell him to keep the rest inside the business. The next request is $11,500. You send that too, but this time you feel irritation as your thumb touches the screen. The irritation embarrasses you. Nobody forced you. Victor did not threaten you. Your mother did not demand anything. You keep volunteering, then privately blaming people for accepting. Jordan finally names the pattern. You call every request an emergency because saying no feels like betrayal. You answer with facts. Victor employs people. The shop can recover. The family helped you when you were young. All of that is true. It is also true that the group chat now changes your pulse. A typing bubble appears, and you begin calculating before a request exists. You stop sharing good news. A promotion becomes dangerous information. A strong consulting month feels like money someone else may already need. You build the first fortune in your family while learning to hide every sign of it. Jordan experiences the secrecy differently. On vacation, you avoid family photographs that reveal the hotel. When Jordan mentions replacing the kitchen cabinets, you answer as though the request is competing directly with your mother's roof. The family is not in the room, but every financial conversation includes them. At work, your salary reaches $168,000. At home, the investment balance approaches $750,000. The house has accumulated equity. Your student loans have been gone for years. Still, you feel one broken transmission away from failing everyone. The contradiction is not that you lack enough. It is that, enough has no meaning when the number of people inside the plan keeps changing. Then, on July 24th, Victor sends the message. He needs $26,000 by Monday. Without it, the shop may fall behind on payroll, rent and a parts account. You open the spreadsheet. For the first time, the total crosses 7 figures. For the first time, you do not feel rich. The number on the screen is $1,016,718. The investment accounts total approximately $719,140 under the fictional, smoothed assumptions used for this story. You and Jordan have contributed $513,000 over 15 years. The remaining amount reflects the model's assumed investment growth, not a promised return and not a forecast. The house is estimated at $433,000. The modeled mortgage balance is about $199,711, leaving roughly $233,289 in home equity. Cash reserves add another $64,289. $719,140 plus $233,289 plus $64,289 equals $1,016,718. That is the family's first $1 million net worth. It is not $1 million available to wire. The investment balance sits across workplace retirement and taxable accounts, each carrying a different purpose and different access considerations. The house contributes more than $200,000 to the calculation, yet removing that equity would require selling, borrowing, or changing where you live. The cash reserve is liquid, but it is also the buffer protecting two incomes, a house and the consulting work. The spreadsheet does not distinguish between a dollar that can move tonight and a dollar that should remain untouched for 20 years. It only adds assets and subtracts liabilities. That arithmetic is useful. It is not a moral instruction. Selling investments may create taxes and remove money assigned to long-term goals. Home equity is not checking account cash. The house estimate can change. Markets can fall before breakfast on Monday. The number is a snapshot of an architecture, not a pile of money behind a door. Jordan walks behind your chair and sees the total. For a moment, neither of you speaks. 15 years of decisions are compressed into one cell: the old car kept longer, the consulting Saturdays, the raises that never fully reached the checking account, the house below the approved budget, the market months when continuing felt foolish. Jordan places a hand on the back of your chair. You did it, Jordan says. You should feel a rival. Instead, Victor's message makes the milestone feel like a balance available for distribution. You close the spreadsheet, then open it again. You subtract $26,000. The total remains above or near the symbolic line depending on the day's market value. You subtract the next imagined request, then another. This is how a fortune becomes psychologically unavailable. Not because it is too small, but because you can already imagine an endless line of emergencies standing in front of it. You look at the red cookie tin on your mother's table. 15 years ago, it taught you that every dollar must wait for the loudest need. Your system taught you something different: a dollar can have a purpose before urgency arrives. Victor's message waits on the screen. Normally, you would answer within minutes. Instead, you write, "I love you. I'm not wiring anything tonight. Let's sit down tomorrow and understand the gap." Your thumb hovers before sending it. The sentence feels colder than a $26,000 transfer, even though it contains more honesty than the last 3 transfers combined. You send it. Nothing collapses. The group chat remains quiet. Your mother keeps cutting cornbread. Somewhere beneath the relief is grief for the version of yourself who believed $1 million would finally end financial fear. The money solved the scarcity on your personal balance sheet. It exposed the scarcity inside your definition of responsibility. Victor replies with one word. Okay. The financial payoff is not that you can rescue the shop. It is that 15 years of margin finally give you time to decide whether rescue is the right role. For the first time, wealth functions as space between a request and an answer. The next morning, you meet Victor before the shop opens. The waiting area smells like rubber and old coffee. A stack of unpaid invoices sits beneath the counter. None of the documents contains fraud or secret waste. The problem is simpler: 2 large customers are late, the equipment failure consumed cash, and Victor expanded payroll before the new service volume became reliable. He is not lazy. You are not obligated to become his bank. Both sentences can be true. You explain that you will not provide $26,000 and will not co-sign new debt. From the Family Help Fund, you can give $7,500 as a one-time gift. You can also spend Saturday helping him organize the cash flow timeline and prepare questions for a qualified small business advisor. Victor goes quiet. Then he asks the question you have feared for years. So you have it, but you just won't help? Every folded receipt returns at once. The refrigerator part. The certification course. The roof. The first shop transfer. You feel generosity being presented as evidence that no limit was ever intended. You want to list everything you have paid for. You do not. Keeping score would turn gifts into weapons. Instead, you say, I will help. I won't make myself the plan. Victor looks toward the service bays. He does not thank you. Not yet. The conversation follows you to your mother's house that evening. Elena has heard part of the story. She opens the red cookie tin and removes a collection of old receipts folded into thirds. You recognize your own handwriting on several. She kept them because she intended to repay you someday. You tell her that was never necessary. She answers, then why are you angry that we believed you? The question lands harder than Victor's. Your family did not invent the version of you who always says yes. You built him. Each rescue made you feel safer, more valuable, and farther from the powerless kid watching envelopes empty. You confused being needed with being secure. The cost of the first family fortune is not only the money that leaves. It is the fear that love will change if the money stops moving. There is another cost: the family also loses something when you solve every financial problem. Victor never has to show the full cash flow gap until you stop filling it. Your mother keeps old repayment receipts because your refusal to name gifts leaves her carrying a debt you never intended to collect. Generosity without clarity creates obligations on both sides. Jordan reminds you that boundaries are not a verdict on whether someone deserves help. They are an admission that one household cannot become an institution with unlimited capital. You and Jordan spend the following week writing household rules that belong only to this fictional family. The family help budget is capped at $18,000 a year. Requests wait 48 hours unless physical safety is involved. Gifts are named as gifts. Loans require written terms. You will not co-sign debt. Retirement accounts are not family emergency accounts. These are not universal rules or financial advice. They are a structure for people whose old structure was guilt. Victor accepts the $7,500. He reduces one technician's hours temporarily, negotiates a payment schedule and meets with an advisor. The shop is not magically saved. It has a chance to become less dependent on the next family transfer. A boundary does not instantly produce gratitude or emotional peace. It simply makes the real relationship visible where automatic rescue used to cover it. You keep showing up. You help at the shop on Saturday. You bring dinner to your mother without checking whether a bill is waiting. Slowly, the family learns that a financial no is not the disappearance of love. 2 months later, he sends back $500. You return it. Not because boundaries disappeared. Because this time the gift had a name before it left. On a Sunday afternoon in October, the family meets again at your mother's kitchen table. The red cookie tin is open. It no longer holds rent envelopes or folded repayment receipts. Elena has filled it with handwritten recipes, spare keys, and photographs that have no financial value at all. Your phone vibrates against the table. The family group chat. For years, that sound has meant calculation. Who needs what? How quickly can you move it? What part of your future can wait? You finish serving the cornbread before looking. The message is from Victor. The shop made payroll on its own. Your net worth has moved below and above 1 million more than once since July. Markets do that. Estimates change. The milestone is real, but it is not permanent ink. What remains is the architecture: automated saving, diversified ownership, room for emergencies, and generosity with edges. You place the phone beside the cookie tin. Nobody applauds. Nobody needs to. Being the first to build wealth does not require becoming the last line of defense for every person you love. The fortune matters. So does the person who built it. A system that protects everyone except that person is only another red cookie tin waiting for the loudest need. So if your success changes what everyone expects from you, can you stay generous without turning love into a liability?